love all of our players. Freddie, nice guy.
Look, the crack of that bat. Nothing more beautiful than that.
Baseball is such an important part of our family.
That's the beautiful game of baseball right there. You win some, you truly lose some.
I just want somebody to talk Dodgers to me. Well, welcome back to Talk Dodgers to Me, guys. This is episode 23. And I am sitting here with my new friend, Katie Firestone.
Hello.
Thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah.
Actually, you're the first person that has reached out to come on the podcast.
I'm happy to be here.
And we talked like maybe 2 days later, and I was so excited that we're sitting here in the same week.
Amazing.
So, guys, Katie is the lab manager for UCLA with a focus on college baseball players. That is so cool.
Thank you.
And you graduated from University of Washington with a psychology degree.
Yes.
I have a psychology degree as well.
Awesome.
Which I honestly never thought I would use, but now I have a business as a life coach, so everything comes full circle.
Yeah, definitely.
But anyway, before we get into everything you're doing now, which I'm so excited to talk to you about, I just want to give our listeners a little run through of everything you've been doing because it's amazing. And to be honest, yesterday I sat down at a restaurant and was reading through work you've done, and I was so just mesmerized by all of it that like hours later I looked up and realized I was the only person in the restaurant.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet.
So I just want to tell our listeners what you've been doing. So you grew up playing baseball and worked as a stats analyst. You became involved with a nonprofit called Baseball for All, which focuses on gender inequality in baseball. In college, you created a women's college baseball program, went to Japan to teach youth baseball or high school age.
Yeah, to coach high school players from the U.S. who were competing against other teams. So we had Japan, Chinese Taipei, Australia, and then a few other teams that we were playing against in a pony baseball tournament for women, which is super cool.
Well, we're going to get back to that because I want to know what that was like. You were the student analytics manager at University of Washington baseball.
Yes.
You worked with the Seattle Mariners. Recently, you were one out of 3 women out of 300 people at an American baseball conference. You're also involved in organizations including autism awareness and suicide prevention. And maybe this will be everyone's favorite. She once crashed Jock Peterson's wedding rehearsal.
Wedding rehearsal dinner, yes.
So we'll get into all of that later. But my first question is, where did your love of baseball come from?
Yeah, really good question. So my grandpa actually moved from Brooklyn to LA the same year the Dodgers did. And he says it was a coincidence. We don't believe him. We think he followed them to LA. But he also went to Jackie Robinson's first game, which was really cool. And he actually got to meet Jackie's wife at the premiere of 42.
Rachel?
Yeah, which is amazing. So that's like definitely...
Wait, he went to the premiere of the movie 42?
Yeah, and he got to meet her, which is really cool. I don't know if it was like the main premiere or like one of the like screening nights, but she was there, so...
Wow.
Cool,
how did he get to go?
I do not know. I don't know. Yeah, it was like, a while ago, but...
So your love of baseball and the Dodgers came from your grandpa?
Yeah, and my family is just very, very committed. My brother was born like 2 days early or something, and we already had Dodgers tickets, so we just took him to the game when he was like a couple days old.
Oh my gosh.
So my family's just huge, huge Dodgers fans, and that was definitely like something that we all bonded over, watching the games all together and talking about it. So I just grew up loving the Dodgers. Yeah.
So your whole family, big Dodgers
Yeah,
fans.
we have some Yankees fans, but we don't associate with them quite as much.
That's so funny. That's actually similar to me. I grew up in New Jersey where, everybody is a Yankees fan. And actually my mom, who still lives in New Jersey, this year decided to get into baseball since I started the podcast. So we've been having conversations about, who's better, Aaron Judge or Shohei and all that stuff. What made you gravitate towards baseball and not softball?
Yeah, I think that partially I just grew up with a lot of like male cousins and friends, and so it was kind of just what everyone was doing. And I always just liked it better. Like I felt like I was better at it and just like more naturally like drawn to baseball. And I think it's partially just like about the game. Like I just feel like there's something about it that when you're playing, it's so hard to be anywhere else rather than just like right on the field. And like, you know, I struggle sometimes with like anxiety, and I feel like when you're doing something that you love, like playing a sport, like it's so easy to just be present. And that's why like I love baseball so much, and why I've continued to like play in some capacity like in my adult life. I just feel like it's such a good, safe space.
And were there baseball programs for you to play in high school?
There's no like female specific baseball programs in high school. There's an opportunity to like legally you can try out to be on the men's or like the high school baseball team. But at the time I was just so intimidated. And so I ended up switching to play softball in high school, and then getting back involved playing baseball in college.
Wow. So walk me through like you being in college and having the courage to start a college women's baseball league, and how did you get other people involved to join the team? Like, tell me everything.
Yeah, so I had reached out to Justine Siegel, who is a sports psychologist. I want to be a sports psychologist. I'm actually applying to grad school right now to get my PhD. And she's someone I've always looked up to as the first woman to coach and throw batting practice to a Major League Baseball team.
Wow.
So I just DM'd her on Twitter and was like, hey, like I'm so inspired by you. Like, do you think there'd be any opportunities for us to like work together?
Look what happens when you just reach out to people.
Yeah, people are surprisingly responsive, I will say. And then I think, I like to think it's like low risk, high reward, right? Sending those types of messages.
Definitely.
And so like a year later, she replied and said,
a year later?
Yeah, a year later.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, I'm actually trying to start up this like women's college baseball program. Would you be interested? And it was like my junior year. I had just gotten back to campus from COVID, and I was like, I don't think I can say no to this opportunity. Like there's so much going on in my life, but like it's one of those things where I just have to do it. And so one of my best friends, Amber, she grew up playing baseball and softball as well, and she's a huge Giants fan. Like we've made each other cry before watching like the series, but she started it with me, and then I had a couple other friends. And there was actually one woman who I had remembered played on the men's college club baseball team at UW. And I remember seeing a photo of her in this picture, and I was like, who is this woman? So I went back and I found her, and her name's Maggie Gallagher, and she played D1 softball for the University of Washington and actually went to the Women's College World Series. Wow. And then she quit to become the president of the men's club baseball team. And so I reached out to Maggie, and she became our coach and like general manager. And she is like she's coached at a lot of women's baseball events. She still played in like the PSBL, which is like a men's baseball league. And she was like such an awesome mentor. So I think without her and then the other like women who we started it with, we wouldn't have been able to build like such a strong program. I mean, it's still continued, and I've been graduated for 3 years, which is amazing.
Wow. Was anyone resistant to coming on board that you reached out to, or was everyone just like automatically in?
I think that the hardest part is getting people to the facility. I mean, it's Seattle, so we had to talk a practice facility into letting us practice there for free because it has to be indoor because of how much it rains.
Oh, yeah.
And we found a sponsor who really took a chance on us and was willing to go out of their way to let us use their facility, but the only time they had available was 8 a.m. on a Sunday. So we got girls excited about driving 30 minutes across Seattle to go to this facility on a Saturday or on a Sunday. And I think that getting them there is the hardest part. But once they were there and they were interacting with each other and having fun, doing something they loved again, like they would keep coming. I mean, our first year we had, I think 15 girls give up their spring break to fly to LA to be in the first women's college baseball tournament. I think this year, which was the third year, we had like 20. So the program just keeps growing because as soon as people get involved, they realize how much they love it, and they just keep coming and bringing their friends, and at this point it's kind of just word of mouth.
That's amazing. But in the beginning, how were you like talking about it? Were you posting on social media? Were you like at the school outside trying to gain people to join? Like, how did you create the team? Did you have tryouts?
Yeah, we did have tryouts, but we didn't cut anybody at the beginning. I mean, when you're building something, it's like, hey, whoever wants to come. And then obviously, like any team, you're competing for playing time just based on how well you're doing. But We tried everything. We DM'd people on social media like who were competing in like the intramural softball, like, hey, do you want to play baseball instead? And reaching out to our friends of friends who are coaches. We had a woman come down from Canada who's like a female baseball player to come coach our pitchers once. So yeah, I mean, we had people table in the quad to like try to get people to join that way. But yeah, mostly just word of mouth, and social media did help a lot, especially once we played in our first tournament and we had a lot of content. We also scrimmaged the men's club baseball team, which was fun.
How'd that go?
I think we ended up mixing teams to make it a little more,
really? Okay.
More fun.
What positions did you play?
I played first base mostly, and then I pitched a little just for fun, but I was mostly just playing first base, yeah.
Like, what was, like, outside noise of this happening on campus? Because this is the first time this has ever happened, right?
Yeah, I was in a really interesting position because I was working for the men's, like, D1 baseball team as a student analytics manager.
Oh, so you were doing that before?
While I was starting the team, and so I kind of got to hear what their, like, baseball ops people were thinking about it. And it wasn't necessarily, like, negative or positive. We did, after we won our first tournament, actually get to throw out the first pitch at a baseball game for the men's team. So they were supportive in that way, which was really cool. But outside of like the specific other teams on campus, I think that it was pretty positive. We got reached out to by a lot of other like women's club sports. We had a lot of girls on our teams who played other women's club sports. And then my favorite part of it was just the response from the community. I mean, like they put us on like the Seattle News, and you know the Mariners tweeted us, congratulations for winning your tournament, and we got so much attention from them, which was really cool. And when we would go to the practice facility after the tournament, we'd see like these little girls who are tagging along with their brother's baseball practice, and they'd be like, I can play too. Like it really felt like we were doing something that was inspiring like younger girls. So I felt like overall it was like a really positive response from the community.
That's really incredible to hear. For anyone listening that might not know exactly the difference between softball and baseball, do you mind explaining it? Because I'm thinking, you know, the size of the ball, overhand, underhand, the distance, or the field is a little bit different. The distance from home plate to the mound, right?
Yes. The field is,
Am I missing anything?
Is different, and the bases in baseball are further apart and the mound is further away. So that affects like some rules, like leadoff. The leadoff rules are different, and obviously overhand pitching. But besides that, I mean, I guess from a hitter's perspective, it's pretty similar. In softball, you can have different types of pitches, like rise balls, because it's coming from like a lower launch angle, whereas like in baseball, obviously you can't have a rise ball if you're starting that high. So some differences like that, but overall it's semi-similar of a sport, I'd say.
I was just telling someone in the kitchen who you were and who was coming on, and that was her first question. And I'm like, you know what, that would be something good to cover while we're talking about this. But you didn't just win one championship, you won two. You won the next year also, right?
That was really cool because the next year I was just coaching, not playing. And so that was a really fun, different perspective to have on the team. And we have another tournament coming up probably in March. So we didn't win last year, but everyone's fired up to compete again.
Are you still involved in the college club?
It happens at the MLB Youth Academy in LA, so I'll go out down and coach and talk to the girls and just hang out and see like how the program is building. Maybe
your program.
Yeah, maybe guest first base coach or something, but I try to leave it to the people who are in charge now because I trust them and what they're doing with the program.
Wow. So now I'm like trying to get in your mind and think of like your next steps of what you've done. So when you were working as the stats analyst, was that just so interesting to you that you wanted to just dive in deeper?
Yeah. So I always had an interest in baseball analytics. Something just that I just think takes like a very qualitative game and just like quantifies it. And so that's why I sought out that position in the first place. But I was working as a student analytics manager, and I was also working as a research assistant in a social psychology research lab on campus. And I was just thinking that the ways that we were running data analysis and like the outcome models and things were very similar in these two contexts, but nobody was really in these two rooms to be able to think about it in both ways. And so I've developed some research questions. The research project I'm working on now is based on like okay, what if we took these two different ways data are being collected and then we analyze them together? So I had this idea and I went to this event called Take the Field, which is put on by MLB to encourage women to pursue careers in baseball. And I was talking to a lot of people who were pretty high up at MLB about my ideas, and they said, you need to work on a proof of concept study so that when you are interviewing for jobs, you can tell people, hey, there is something to these ideas that I have. And so that's where my project I'm working on now comes from, which is called Stress and Resiliency in College Baseball.
So you went to this event and just started talking to people and telling them your ideas?
Yeah, that's kind of the point of the event. They match you up with like different people in like coaching, baseball ops, analysts to talk about what it's like to pursue a career.
I love your boldness.
Thanks. Yeah, it really is encouraged by the event too. Like they facilitate really cool conversations. So yeah, I've been working on that study. Still actually with the players from the University of Washington men's baseball team because I stayed in contact with their baseball ops. And we actually just secured a partnership with the UCLA athletics department so I can start doing research with their baseball team, which is really exciting.
Amazing.
And then, yeah, I'm applying to grad school this fall, so hopefully I'll start next fall to do a PhD in health, social, or sports psychology, just something where I can continue to have the mentorship to develop like these research questions, and then eventually, like with the goal of becoming a researcher who works for an MLB team, but with all of this cool background knowledge that comes from getting a PhD.
But between that, when you were doing that in college and now, you've done multiple internships where your focus is different types of research, right?
Yeah, so when I was undergrad at the University of Washington, I worked in a couple different research labs to kind of try to figure out what I wanted to do before landing on this. But since graduating, I worked at UCSF in a neuropsychology lab for a couple of years, doing more clinical neuropsychology work. And now I'm at UCLA doing like stress research.
What has interested you so much that like you keep just digging in and wanting to learn more? Like what inspired this, being such a passion of yours?
Well, I think I'm onto something with my idea, and
Is this something you can say?
Well, the research is not published yet, so I don't want to share too much too soon. But like so
Can you
far,
give us a hint?
just looking at it's hard to explain truly, but it's just the research that I'm doing now. We've analyzed some of the results preliminarily, and I think that they're pretty interesting. So I'm like, if I didn't do this, it would keep me up at night. I got to figure out what's going on here in these data sets, and so that's kind of what I'm working on. Okay,
so let's get into it a little bit, because I know one of your focuses is the stress mindset.
Yeah. So,
and how it can be positive, or I guess how it can be debilitating.
Yeah. So, I read this book like when I was 16 called The Upside of Stress by Kelly McGonigal, and a lot of
That's not the one you were telling me about the guy that worked
no,
for the
that's
Dodgers,
a different
right?
one. That's a different one.
Okay.
But similar,
I found him on LinkedIn, and I messaged him.
Oh, good. Yeah. So, yeah, I read this book when I was 16 called The Upside of Stress that my brother recommended to me. And it's essentially about the idea that the way that you think about stress can change the way that your body responds to it physiologically. So you can have like a stress as enhancing mindset where you see stress as a good thing, something that can actually like enrich your life and your experiences and help your body respond positively in a physiological way. Or stress is debilitating, which is our more common view of stress. Oh, stress is bad, it's negative, it needs to be avoided. And so we're trying to understand that if players adopt like a more positive stress mindset, does that affect how well they're performing on the field? And that's what we're looking into right now.
So is all of your research based on numbers, or are you going in and talking to players, asking them questions? How does that work?
Yeah, so a lot more of what I've done is talk to the coaches because I'm more interested in what data would be helpful for them. And so then they'll point me in the direction, and they'll talk to me about like different things that they're concerned about on a more broad level. And then I'll match up the psychology measures that go along with those things. For example, stress is something that they were really concerned about. And so I'm thinking, okay, how can we measure stress and what can we do to help improve stress or help the way that people are thinking about stress? So we do get a little bit of qualitative data from the players, but it's mostly quantitative, especially because everything is analyzed anonymously, right? So we're not trying to diagnose or figure out people's specific mental health issues. We're just trying to gather as much data as possible so that we can give these coaches points that they can then use to help like better their players or better their organization.
That's so cool. I recently was listening to, I don't know, one sports podcast, and they were talking about tennis players, and he wanted to find out how like the top 500 players, out of all of them, how did the top 25 become the top 25? And what he found was that the top 25 have a more positive mindset. Mm-hmm. And they're able to brush things off quickly. If they get themselves in a tough spot or miss a ball or something like that, they're able to bounce back because their self-talk is positive compared to the rest of the list. Or that was just enhanced more than everyone. So I was thinking of that when I was reading about the things you're doing. I mean, so how would then you try and help the players in this way? Would someone like you be like a Tim Grover? Have you heard of him? He's all about the mental mindset. He's worked with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. He worked with the Dodgers. Actually, Jason Hayward brought him to the Dodgers this year to give him, he does motivational speaking, and that's really what he's all about. So would it be someone like you going in and talking to the team and helping them understand this and how it can benefit them and teaching them self-talk and all that stuff?
That's kind of like the role of a mental performance coach or like a sports psychologist.
Which is what you said you want to do.
It's not exactly sports psychology because sports psychology is a little more applied, but it's more on the research side of it. So I would be interested in doing some applied work, presenting, trying to teach people these skills, but I'm more interested on like the back end of like the research, making sure that the skills we're teaching people are the right ones and are validated and are really doing what we think they're doing in terms of helping people perform well. But I am working on developing a course that does teach, that's geared specifically towards college athletes to teach them about stress mindset. And that would be presented via like a presentation, or it could be done online via Zoom. But that would be with the goal to help teach people about how to see stress as a positive thing, to not only increase their performance outcomes, but also just their well-being and help them manage their stress.
So I kind of want to break it down a little bit, because even though sometimes like all these words we're saying are easy to comprehend, like what does it actually mean for a baseball player to adopt a healthy stress mindset? Like, is that whatever they're carrying to compartmentalize things? Is it to use it as motivation? Even like watching the Dodgers game the other day, Bobby Miller gave up a 3-run homer and then somehow was able to become better after that for the rest of the game. So I'm wondering what he did mentally in that moment to say, okay, I just gave up that 3-run homer. Let's not do that again.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, right? Because there's so many different factors, like what could be going on inside of his head. But I think that when you like go to these like analytics conferences, like it's all so data driven, and that's one of the things that I love about baseball is how data driven it is. But they're not considering like the mental part of it within their data analysis. Okay. So they're thinking like
they're not at all.
Well, they're thinking like spin rate, pitch speed, all of that, but they're not thinking like, oh, what if we included that with some measures about like psychology research or something like that.
Well, I'm also thinking about like how baseball's evolving, and we talked on the phone about how we both are really happy that organizations are becoming more aware that they need to emphasize the importance of mental health. Yes. So I'm thinking even when they're doing analytics and all the numbers, and to be honest, I'm not so much a analytics person. I'm connected to the player and passionate about who they are and learning about them and stuff like that. So this is just cool to understand. So I'm wondering if even how they look at analytics now, they are factoring in things like that.
Yeah, I think it's
more than they ever have.
Yeah, I think it's becoming more broad too. But I think that there's ways that you can teach people about how to think about stress that can be beneficial. And that's what we're trying to figure out is like, what are those mechanisms that allow people to overcome hurdles like within the game and just within their personal life as well. So we're working on trying to figure those out and then teaching them to other people to help them learn those same types of strategies.
Were you ever on a path to want to play baseball professionally? Or were you always really interested in the analytics?
I mean, I think that like everyone who's a fan now, probably like when I was a kid, I wanted to be the first woman in the MLB. You know, that was like my dream. Mm-hmm. But I think that I didn't see any possibilities of that whatsoever. So I thought, when I'm like on a baseball field, like that is the happiest I am. How can I get myself a job where I can go there every day? I saw the most women working in sports psychology as mental performance coaches or as sports psychologists, and I thought, okay, that's probably my best chance. And luckily I love doing research, and so it matched up really perfectly. Mm-hmm. When I first heard the term like sports psychologist, I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. But now we have women like Kelsey Whitmore, who played in the Atlantic League and is now playing with the Oakland Ballers, and Olivia Pichardo, who's the first woman to play D1 baseball. She plays for Brown University. We're seeing like actual opportunities for women to play, and I think just with this representation, it's going to inspire. It already is inspiring so many more young women to stick with it. And so I think that I didn't see that representation, so I never once considered that even remotely as a possibility.
For people coming after you.
Yeah, so it's cool now to see like those women who are making such strides, and then also see the impact it's having on young women who now see that as a possibility. It's awesome.
That's amazing. And you know, everything you're saying is everything that I'm so passionate about, and really what I do as a life coach. When I grew up, I lost my dad when I was 16, and my mom took over his business. She was a stay-at-home mom before that. And when she did that and I saw her become this boss lady, it truly opened my eyes to who I can become and all the possibilities that are out there for me if I'm willing to work for it and work towards it. And I think sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So when you don't see someone doing something that you're thinking about, you don't know that there's an opportunity there. So to be someone to create opportunities for others, I mean, that's incredible. Really incredible. And you must feel so proud when you go back to your school and get to speak to the students playing.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I think that type of representation, just like with your mom, like it's so inspiring when you're young to see people, you know, taking that type of initiative in their life and doing things that are hard, but they're doing them. Mm-hmm. And it is amazing to go back and see, you know, the team continue to grow. And there's even an organization in San Francisco called the SF Bay Sox. And it's an all-girls Little League like organization within the San Francisco Recs department. Mm-hmm. So I went up there for work like last year, and I got to go like hang out in the dugout and talk to all these little girls who are like so precious and so excited about the opportunity of playing baseball. And then I also got to talk to girls who are like 14, mm-hmm. deciding, do I want to play softball in high school, or do I want to push myself and try out for the baseball team? And I got to try to do my best to give them that courage that like I didn't have when I was that age. I was too scared to like pursue something like that. So it's cool to be able to try to help people take the path that like I wish I would have taken.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, was there something you wish someone told you or said to you when you were young that you're now saying to people that maybe you wish that you had heard?
I just wish I would have seen the representation. Like, I think if I had seen it, I would have known it was possible, but like the thought didn't even cross my mind, mm-hmm. that could be a possibility. And so I think that the main goal of like creating like the women's club baseball team at the University of Washington, and even wanting to work in baseball myself, is just with the hope that having more women out there involved in the sport, more mm-hmm. young girls will be inspired to pursue careers and playing opportunities and just have equal opportunity.
Oh, and that actually ties in the documentary that I can't wait to watch. It's going to come out in between Game 2 and 3 of the World Series this year, and it's called See Her, Be Her, which is exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
You're seeing this, and you're understanding that you can be this. And that, when I was just watching the little clip of the documentary, it made me think about like things that happen that we don't even realize create our perspectives. Like when you're young and you're told girls play softball, boys play baseball. At that young age, that's what you're taught to believe. Not just girls, but boys. So you're growing up thinking that those opportunities aren't available to you. This is strictly black and white when it's not. So everything you're doing is creating that perspective of opportunity for, that trickles down to, when they're really young.
Totally. I know Jean, who's the one who's like helping create the documentary. But yeah, I think it's really exciting, and I also think it's amazing that they got a cool slot to actually like have people who are going to be able to watch it, because I do think it's exactly what we're talking about, just creating more representation, and just allowing people to see like, hey, this is a possibility, which is amazing.
And it's also really supported by the MLB, which was going to be another question I had for you. When I was watching the clip, former players like Cal Ripken Jr. and Ichiro are so passionate about women's baseball as well, which was just really cool to see. And I'm so glad that they're championing it. So I was going to ask you, like, what has your experience been with the MLB supporting everything that you're doing?
Yeah, I think that the coolest thing that was such a surprise is like when we won that first tournament, like the Mariners were so responsive towards us and so excited about it. Like they tweeted us congratulations. They invited us to come onto the field and meet some of the players. So I remember we took a picture.
Who'd you meet?
We took a picture with Jesse Winker, who obviously no longer plays for the Mariners, but they tweeted the photo and said like congratulations. And I just remember all the comments were like, oh, maybe they can teach him how to hit or something. But it was really cool, and he was so sweet. He signed one of his bats for us. We have it hung up in our practice facility. And then I played first base, so I got to like go meet Ty France. And I remember their like giveaway was these pink hats. So I was like, oh, I like that pink hat that you wear. And he's like, thanks, I'll try to wear mine more often.
Aww.
And I thought that was really sweet. I was hoping he would say, okay, you can have mine.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
It was really cool, and I definitely stayed out there talking to him way longer than I should have. But Ichiro was actually there, so we got to see him from a distance. And then J-Rod came over and like took photos with all of us, and he was so sweet. This was 2022, so it was a little bit before he became like crazy famous, and so I think he was a little more, keen to like hang out and talk to us and take photos, which was amazing.
I would hope that he still is.
I would hope so too, but yeah.
He seems like a nice guy.
He was so nice. I mean, all of them were, honestly. And the day that we went to the T-Mobile Park was it was a like women in sports day. So we got to see a panel. I think her name is Sandy Charles. She's a female sports announcer for the Mariners. She was there, and just like a ton of really awesome women. So it was a really cool experience with the Mariners.
I love that. What was the experience you had at the Dodgers training facility?
Yeah, so I don't know what quite went into that, but they allowed us to practice at their training facility in Redondo Beach, which is like generally where they like coach and like train.
Had you ever been there before? Because you are a Dodger fan.
No, I hadn't been there. It's mostly like I think they host like more youth teams there.
Okay.
But they allowed us to go practice there, and some of the like organizational people talked to us, and they were really awesome and very supportive. So when we were at the training facility with the Dodgers, they had Mabel Blair, who was one of the women who played for the AAGPBL, which is the All-American Professional Girls Baseball League during World War II. Might know it from the movie A League of Their Own, but it's when all the men went off to war, and so they tried to monetize women's baseball, which is the most popular it's ever been since. Wow. The only time when women have had a chance to play against each other like that until now, when we've created this college baseball program, which is so cool.
And she's really made that her life mission. Yeah,
she's an incredible woman. I could not say enough cool things about her. She has a white afro, and she wears like Pit Viper sunglasses.
Yes,
and
I think if
96.
anyone saw her, maybe they're not recognizing her name. But if you saw her, you'd know who she is.
Yeah, and so I got the chance to play catch with her, which was like hilarious, and she was so sweet, and she just said, throw it harder. And I was like, okay, I guess, but I also like, she's 97, I'm nervous.
Oh my gosh, because you were throwing to her?
Yeah, we were throwing back and forth. And then I was interviewing her for some media thing, and I asked her, so, you know, in the movie A League of Their Own, they make you wear makeup and, like, cut your hair and everything. Did they actually make you do that? And she said...
That's a good question.
Yeah, I know. And she said, yeah, they actually would fine us $5 if we didn't put lipstick on before the games.
Are you kidding me?
Which is wild. Obviously, that's just anecdotal, but I thought it was so funny.
Oh, my
and
God.
She loved it. She was cracking up. And, yeah, she was so sweet.
That's so cool. How has being a fan of baseball changed since doing all this work? Like, do you watch the games through a different lens?
I think...
And, like, what are you watching for now?
Yeah, I think now, like, just because of my research, like, I've got more interested in, like, the stats side of it, and more interested in, like the sport in general and, like, what's going on in terms of that, and less so in the, like, day by day of the individual games. Okay. But I still love going to the... I can't...
So you're not watching, like, oh, man, he looks really stressed right now.
No. Yeah, I'm looking more at the, like...
help.
Yeah, at the stats and stuff. But my grandpa is a psychologist, and he did say that he wished he could have given some of the Dodgers therapy back in the day. But
I think that every day. Yeah. I want to go in their dugout and give them motivational speeches.
Yeah, but I still really enjoy watching it, but I definitely am interested from, like, a league level, like, with the rule changes and how that's affecting, like, the different stat outcomes and things like that.
So your grandpa, did he also inspire you at all in the psychology of everything you're doing?
Yeah, he was a psychotherapist, so he, like, was a clinical psychologist and saw patients. He's retired now, but yeah, definitely introduced me to some interesting concepts early on that made me want to, like, look more into it, take
That's
more
so
psych
cool.
classes in college and stuff like that.
So is he so excited about everything you're doing?
Yes, he is.
I think we should get into some fun stories.
Yeah.
Because on the phone, you told me that I don't know if it was an accident or not, but you crashed Jock Peterson's wedding.
Yes.
How?
So,
What? Where?
Okay.
Why?
This is a good story. It was his rehearsal dinner, not the wedding.
Okay,
But what happened is my...
So this is, like, how many years ago?
Okay, I was 6.
I know he has a lot of kids. So.
I think I was 16, so it was 2018 or 2017.
Okay.
And he got married in my hometown of Santa Barbara. My sister's husband, so my brother-in-law, is a piano player, and he was hired to play piano at this rehearsal dinner. So he told us, me and my cousin, who's also a really big Dodgers fan, I think this is the date and time of the wedding. So we're like, okay, bet.
Oh, so he gave you the info.
He was like, I think. So we go to the restaurant that's associated with the hotel that this party is at like 2 hours before the party starts. And we're like 16, and it's a very fancy restaurant, but we're wearing full wedding attire, suit and tie, and we're just, like, sitting there trying to drag out this dinner as long as possible so that when the party starts, we can just join because they've closed off all the entrances and exits. So we are like, we'll have another water, like, we'll have a salad. Like, we can't be dropping, like, money on, like, a real dinner, like, drinks. Like, it's so expensive. So we're like, can we have some more, like, free bread? Like, we're trying to, like, wait out this experience. So eventually we, like, look over, we see the party starting, and we can see Kershaw from our table. And we're like, it's game time. So we go out, and we're so nervous, but we walk around. And it was really funny because, like, everybody was crowding around Kershaw, and, like, it's Jock's wedding, but, like, they were mostly paying attention to him, it felt like. So
was this a big wedding? Was it more intimate?
No. It was very intimate. It was a rehearsal dinner. There was probably only about 50 people there. And so we're doing a couple laps, walking around, and the wedding photographer actually took a picture of us.
Oh, my gosh.
And so we're like, to the wedding photographer, like, oh, my God, that's such a great photo. Like, how do we get it? And she's like, oh, it's on the invite. We're like, great. So we never saw the picture. But I
bet they did.
I know, that is what I love to think about, is every once in a while, him and his wife are scrolling through their wedding album, and they're like, who are these people? So we just did a couple laps, walked around, hung out for a little bit. We were really nervous. Even though we fit right in, we were dressed accordingly. So eventually we're like, we should go. So we start to walk out, and the one person that I wanted to see so bad was Charlie Culberson, because I had the biggest crush on him when I was a kid in high school. And as I'm walking out, he walks in, and I literally got like this close to him, and I was freaking out.
Did you say hi?
I was like stunned. Because everyone was like, oh, he's not even on the Dodgers anymore. Like, he's not that famous. Why would he be invited to the rehearsal dinner?
I love to learn who's invited.
Yeah, and
Who
then I
else
was like,
there?
I mean, pretty much everyone, like, you could imagine. But as we're walking out, like, the trolley pulls up with, like, more wedding guests, and, like, Champ was there, like, his whole family was there. It was really cool. So that was, like, one of the best Dodger interaction stories, I feel like.
Oh my
To be honest, we could have stayed, but we were a little nervous, and what are they going to do?
But no one said anything? No one asked?
No one asked at all. We were really...
Like, did Jock see you? Did his wife see
They didn't talk to us, but, like, they definitely saw us. We were walking around trying to, like, engage with people, just, like, enjoying the party, so...
See, this also reminds me of a Friends episode. When Rachel... Do you watch Friends?
Yeah.
When, Chandler misplaces the camera,
I
they have
know.
to go to the wedding and
Yeah.
take pictures.
I don't know where we got the audacity at 16 years old to do that, but we were just like, we have to make it happen.
I've actually crashed a wedding myself.
Yeah?
My friend Jill and I, we used to love to go to, like, hotel pools. Mm-hmm. And we one time were like, wouldn't it be fun to crash a wedding? So we just decided to dress up and do that one night. And then it just became a thing.
It's so fun, yeah. I love that.
I think part of it is like, is someone going to catch you?
I know. Yeah, it was really fun.
But this was like completely planned out.
Oh, it was very
You
well
were
thought out. We
determined.
orchestrated it. Yeah, it was great. It was really fun.
But you didn't go to the actual wedding?
No, not the actual wedding. We don't know what location that was at.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're the second person that we've had on that has had a run-in with Kershaw. I'm very jealous. He's my favorite.
There was a restaurant in Santa Barbara that he loved to go to, so I drove past him once. Like, he was sitting at the restaurant. I was like, I need to get out. And they're like, no. But I have heard that Chris Taylor, before he got a little more famous, used to frequent the Brig, which I think is hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's kind of, I don't want to know that.
That's
but
funny. I've gone there a lot.
Yeah. I can tell you my Justin Turner story.
Okay, so you were at a country music concert
Yes.
and saw Justin Turner and Chris Taylor, right?
Yeah, so I was at the bowl at a Zach Brown
nice.
concert, and we had really, really nice seats because my dad loves Zach Brown. He's seen him multiple times. So we go to this concert, and I like saw on like on JT's story that like he was at a restaurant like nearby. So I was like, oh, I wonder if like he's gonna be at this concert, but I didn't think obviously of it. But we were in the very front section of the bowl. So I walk out to go to the bathroom, and I just like see him and Justin Turner, Chris Taylor, and their wives, and I'm like, what is going on? So I like go up beeline towards JT, and I'm just like, hey, like I like love you, like can I take a photo for my brother? He's a huge fan. He was at the concert, didn't have to pee, like worst mistake of his life, and he is like so sweet. We take a picture, like, but then like the line stops moving. So we're waiting to get back into the concert, and it's like, it gets past the moment of like, oh my God, I love you. And then it's like, now we're just having a conversation for like 10 minutes. Yeah, and I just am word vomiting over and over again, because recently my uncle had accidentally sat in the Dodgers wives section with JT's wife and was like talking to her and like Courtney and like shooting the shit, and turns out it wasn't his seat. So someone came over and was like, hey, this isn't your seat. And we thought that was like the funniest thing ever. So I'm like telling Courtney that story. She's like, who are you? Like, it was...
Did you tell him about what you were doing?
Yeah. So when I was in my midst of my word vomit, I was like, I play baseball. I started a women's team. Like, my dream is to see a woman play in the MLB. And he was like, no way, me too. So,
Aww.
Which was so sweet. So afterwards, I tweeted him the photo of us, and I was like, I met my hero tonight, like JT, so cool to we share the same dream of seeing a woman play in the MLB, and he liked it, which I thought was sweet. So,
and now he's on the Seattle Mariners.
I know, that's why I went to the Dodgers Mariners game, because I wanted to see him.
Which game did you go to?
The second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought game 2 they gave him a better standing ovation than game 1.
Yes, I did shotgun in the parking lot beforehand, so I was having a great time, not paying too much attention to the game, but it was really fun. Yeah.
Aw, we talked a lot about that. I mean, I love Justin Turner so much.
Yeah.
And wish him well. I hope he'll retire a Dodger. Maybe sign a 1-year contract back with us eventually.
Yeah, I think
We'll
the
see.
Mariners are also a great organization. Like, I think that obviously he really embodies what it means to be a Dodger. like his humor, like, you know, his kindness, his charity work outside of baseball. Like, but I think the Mariners support a lot of those values too. So he's found a good home there, but I also hope he would come back to the Dodgers for sure.
So how much are you following the Dodgers right now?
I listen to like a couple podcasts weekly about like updates and things like that. I try to watch the games when I can. So I'd say moderately following them.
Okay. So how are you feeling about the team? How are you feeling about Shohei being on the Dodgers?
Yeah, so I actually saw Shohei in spring training in Arizona, which was crazy because he wasn't supposed to pitch that day. And then when the lineup came out...
Wait, he was pitching?
Yeah, when the lineup came out that he was pitching, people drove from LA to Arizona to watch.
Wow.
And so it was a crazy game. And so, he was pitching in spring training. I know he's not now. And I think it's interesting that he's not pitching. It's giving him a chance, obviously, to showcase like his other talents in terms of like base stealing, and it's giving him, obviously, how well he's doing is giving him a interesting shot at MVP. So
imagine his stress mindset.
Oh yeah, it's got to be unbreakable for sure.
Okay, let's just think about this. Shohei's season starts out with all the drama with Ippei. Guys, remember that? That feels like a lifetime ago. Gets through that. Seems like his mindset is positive, it seems. Like he's able to brush things off, or he's just the best compartmentalizer of all time. But like through everything and how well he's playing, being on a new team, being on the Dodgers, which adds more hype to everything and the media surrounding him, but also to be recovering from Tommy John surgery, not pitching, being the DH, like that's just a lot of things to juggle on top of sponsorships and endorsement deals and the level of fame he has, and it's a lot.
Yeah, and
to be able to get on the field and play as well as he does, he must have a positive stress mindset.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. He may have taken everything that happened to him earlier on in the season in terms of like facing so much adversity and been able to channel that into a really positive change. Like we've been able to see like with his stats for the rest of the season. But I also think once you get to that level, playing professional baseball, like you're so mentally tough, you know, because you're so used to facing that much adversity, and getting yourself comfortable in those situations just becomes like an everyday thing. So I think that you're physiologically more relaxed in those situations, and you kind of just adapt to it. So just because he's been, you know, in the spotlight for so long now, like I'd imagine that he's just so strong mentally.
I wonder, well, I'm sure that, you know, from the start of someone's career to the end, their stress level and their ability to maintain a positive mindset evolves so much in a more positive way. But have you seen or done any research on, I know you're working with college baseball players, but even like then to minor league players, to major league baseball players, have you seen or done any research on comparing that?
Yeah, I think the minor leagues would be really interesting, and that's where I would like to work next.
That must be the most stressful thing ever.
Well, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what is different mentally between the people who make it at each level. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge problem, obviously. But I think that it's more interesting to me right now to look at college and then also minor leagues, because I think that that's where you see like what makes or breaks people in terms of like variability, and that's where I think there's more opportunity for impact of helping people learn how to be, you know, think about the game mentally. Because once you really do make it to the major leagues, you do have to go through like a certain level of like mental toughness. So I think that most people who make it there are kind of well equipped in that department. But when you look at like the minor leagues or like college, there's a lot of people who still struggle with that, who you can still help.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just the evolution of toxic masculinity, I think more than ever players are showing emotion, which I love so much. And you hear them talk about, like, we were told not to talk about anything, not to show emotion for so many years. So now to see that change and see, like, that to me helps grow the game of baseball. Because when I'm watching, I want to know that you care. Even in the way that they answer questions. We were talking about Walker Buehler last episode and just how transparent he was with everything that he's going through. You know, he's rehabbing, or no, he's done rehabbing, but he's coming off of a major Tommy John surgery, his second one, and he's trying to get back to, you know, the pitcher that he was. And he said his biggest hurdle right now is matching the physical and the mental, and the ability to trust himself and trust his body.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think that through I think a lot of the research that's being done too is within injury and injury recuperation and stuff. There's a lot of really, really interesting work being done there.
Is there anything about what you're doing now, or just anything you would want to share with people and have them understand that maybe we wouldn't know about in the research you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that I tell people the most, that helps me the most and my friends, is just within the positive stress mindset thing. Just the more that you can see hurdles as exciting challenges instead of debilitating bumps, kind of like we talked about earlier, it really does help me. If I have a stressful week ahead via work, or when I was presenting at the conference and I was a little nervous, I really just try to positively reframe it as what a chance to practice, performing in a situation that I'm gonna have to do my whole life. What a great chance to practice getting comfortable. Even when you feel overwhelmed at work, or you have millions of different things going on, what a great chance to practice multitasking. Becoming a good multitasker is a skill that's gonna benefit me in my entire life. How lucky is it that I get to practice that this week? And it sounds cheesy, and it is cheesy, but it really does help me when I feel overwhelmed or stressed myself.
Yeah, and I mean, everything you're talking about is things that anybody can incorporate into their lives.
Totally.
This is so much of what I do with my clients. Even my sister just fractured her wrist, and I went over there yesterday, and she was having a bit of a meltdown, and thinking that it's the end of the world for her. And I'm like, okay, tell me everything you're feeling of how horrible this is. And I let her just let it all out. And I'm like, okay, we're going to reframe that now. And you're going to figure out what you can do, how you can make this work, what you need to ask for help from others. There's a way to reframe everything. It's your choice whether you're doing that or not, and whether you want to invest that time into yourself, because that's how you set yourself up for success.
Totally.
I feel like this is a good time for me to do my obligatory Cubs reference for every episode.
Let's hear it.
Joe Madden, World Series winning manager for the Cubs, would often say pressure is not a bad word, it's a good word. He would always encourage his players, pressure is not a bad thing. That means you're doing something that matters. Often pressure has this negative connotation, but he kind of tried to flip that, which leads me to a question I have for you, Katie.
Yeah.
You said that you were working with coaches and kind of trying to understand what information they need, and now you said that a lot of your research is geared towards, hey, you want to provide possibly a presentation tool for players eventually to be able to show hey, here's a way that you can really reframe. Is there a plan, and maybe this is too early in the research to know if this is a thing, but is there a plan to create kind of an applied method for helping coaches, maybe whatever they can do to help the players that they're going to be overseeing and coaching to apply the research that you guys are doing right now?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and it's really important, right? Because these coaches do have such a effect on the team dynamic and the players as a whole. And I think that a lot of the same things that we're developing and understanding could be applied and taught to coaches directly too. So it's something that I hadn't necessarily considered, just because we're focused so much on the players specifically. But I do think that is a good idea. There is a lot of research being done on coaching styles and tendencies and how to best support them. But I do think a lot of this stress mindset stuff can be applied to the coaches as well, because they're also put into a really high pressure situation. So I totally think so.
Who in the baseball world do you admire?
Well,
or women in the baseball world?
I have so many. I know I said Justine, she's amazing. And then Sarah Langs, I love listening to her analyst takes and following her on social media, because I think she's one of the only women I actually see working in such a high profile analyst role. It's really cool, and I think her work is not only so well done, but also really interesting and provided in a way that allows people to engage even if they don't understand it. So I think that's so important. And also I'm just really inspired by her story and everything that's going on. And then I mentioned,
and she's so beloved in in
Yeah,
the baseball community.
100%. And also she's in a field that is primarily men, and she's just a part of it and well respected, and you know, it's really inspiring to see. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, the women who are playing at high levels, like Kelsey Whitmore and Olivia Pichardo. There's actually a women's national baseball team. Team USA has a women's team. Every single one of them, I think, is awesome. They're adults who are dedicating their time to continuing to play women's baseball. Yeah, those a couple that come to mind.
That's amazing. There was a quote that I came across that you said that I wanted to just ask you a little bit more about. Let me just find it in my notes. So you said, I've always been passionate about research as a way to find meaning. And I really relate to that because I've just always had such a curious mind and wanting to understand the why behind everything. And I think that's what, you know, led me to have a psychology degree, similarly to you. So with everything that you're doing, I'd love to know, what is your why?
Yeah, I think that, the way that I see it is I was put into a fortunate position, where I have the opportunity to, obtain higher education. So my goal is truly just to become as educated as possible so that I can help as many people as possible. And via, you know, doing this type of research psychology versus clinical work, it allows me to help more people on a broader scale. So eventually I want to be able to come up with different interventions or tools that people can use that I can teach widely that can help people deal with stress. And I think whenever I tell people what I do, the first thing that they say is, you should study me. Everybody. I'm like, oh, really? I work in stress research. You work in stress research, you should study me. It's such an issue.
Because everyone thinks
everyone
is
stressed. Yeah, everyone. And it really does affect you physiologically. It's related to so many different physical health outcomes. And so my true goal is just to be able to help people understand how they can leverage their stress to be a positive thing, and
specifically in baseball.
Just increase. Yeah. I mean, my passion is in baseball, and I do think that there is a lot of mental health issues that need to be addressed and can be helped by these types of interventions and ideas. And so that's where I see the impact. But eventually I'd like for it to be as broad as possible. So I just want to help people, and I'm excited about the idea of working in baseball and helping people in baseball. But ideally, I want to help anybody.
That's really incredible. When you're talking to people and you're hearing that you should study me, do you, is there something across the board of why, everyone thinks they're the most stressed?
I just think,
or you think people don't really know yet how to manage it?
Yeah, I just think it's become such a normal, in modern society for people to be, overworked and spread out. I do feel like
that's changing a bit, because I think people are understanding that being a workaholic is not necessarily a good thing in how maybe it has been viewed in the past. So we're seeing more of the 4-day workday or things like that, or working from home part-time, stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, anything that can help people increase well-being
and have a personal life.
Yeah, and be happy and find meaning outside of that. But I just think that with these increases in different health conditions that are related to stress, it's interesting to think about what we can do to help people alleviate stress, see it as something that's more positive, and just teach people about ways to manage it that are healthy.
Okay, I have just a couple more questions.
Yeah, no worries.
But one's coming up right now, and I know we kind of mentioned this when we talked about incorporating mental health in analytics, but just because you're so involved in the baseball world, way more than, me and people listening, how have you seen organizations try and incorporate that more into their culture? Or have you?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think with the rise of sports psychology is a really good start, because people are starting to think about how can we help coach people to perform better mentally. But now I think that it's taking a little bit more, which is actually seeing teams hire clinical psychologists on staff to help the players deal with different mental health concerns that they're facing as well. And I think that is incredible, and that is where I would love to see it continue to go, is not only providing players with resources to like perform better, but also just resources to help them manage like the problems that come with, you know, being a professional in a really high stress environment, or, you know, just being a person trying to be happy in their own lives. So
Yeah.
I think that the incorporation of like having a clinical psychologist on staff is really cool.
I love that. And the man that you told me about who wrote that book,
Yes.
was that what he was hired to do for the Dodgers in 2020?
So Eric Potterhat, he was a military psychologist who focused on like high performance techniques. So he was hired for the Dodgers in 2020 to do more of like the mental performance coaching, help them understand like what they can do to like build mental fortitude and perform
Wow,
better.
we won in 2020.
I know.
So maybe they got to get him back.
Yeah, his book is really awesome. It's called Learned Excellence.
All right, well, noted.
Yeah.
My last question for you is really, what would you say to people who think women shouldn't play baseball and that it's a man's sport?
I mean, I think it's just about like, it's hard to relate to somebody. I like saying that because I think it's just about equal opportunity. I mean, it's supposed to be America's pastime, right? Shouldn't that be available to everybody? And I think that all the reasons that you, or you know, someone might love baseball, like why would you not want to share that with somebody that you love, or why would you want anyone to not have access to that? And also, it's not hurting anybody, you know, to have a woman playing on
I
the team
completely agree.
Yeah.
But I'm just imagining, you know, even like my next question for you was going to be, how can someone like me, or how can our listeners help advocate for this or help support this mission, and in any way? Like, I'd love to know that, and how we might be able to have this conversation with someone who might be very traditional and set in their ways about, you know, how we mentioned like things are black and white to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think like the response that I've had like from my own family and like friends has been so positive that I haven't really had to face that type of
That's great.
adversity, which is really, really nice. But I think that like the best thing that we can do is just continue to grow and continue to show people like why they need to take us seriously. You know, like our games were being held at the youth academy, and there's some like college men's baseball teams nearby that came and watched, and like just by watching us like, you know, play well and take it seriously, like I hope that would show them like, hey, we have a right to be here too. But to answer your question, what can people do to help support it? Like, we have a website, Baseball for All. They can check out or follow us on Instagram and just see what we're up to. I think that if anyone has any kids that are like, you know, little girls that want to play, they're always posting opportunities across the country, even across the world.
Wow.
So just encouraging people to seek out those opportunities, and obviously they have like donations are always helpful, and there's different media you can engage with, like when the documentary comes out. But I think just showing people that it's something that actually matters, that we do care about. People want to see women play baseball, and they want to be excited about it, and it just helps build.
How would that not be exciting for anyone? I mean,
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch the documentary. It's following women in like 6 or 7 different countries, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Where will we be able to find the documentary?
It's called She Her Be Her, and the organization is called Grassroots Baseball. So if you look them up, and then it's going to air during the World Series on MLB Network, which is super cool.
On MLB.
Yeah.
Where do you hope women's baseball is in 10 years?
Well, so actually women's college basketball started out doing what we're doing, which is creating enough club teams. I think it's like once you get to 45 or something, you can apply to be an NCAA sport. I think that would be the coolest thing in the entire world.
How many teams are there now?
I think there's like between 10 and 15, but I mean there were 0 4 years ago, so we're on the up.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think it would be really cool because then women wouldn't have to make, you know, the choice in high school like to switch to softball. They could just know that there's opportunities out there. I mean, even as we've developed these teams, we get DMs from girls being like, I now want to come to the University of Washington because I want to play baseball with you guys. Like, once you build it, they'll come, you know. And so I would love to see women's baseball be an NCAA sport. That would be the coolest thing ever in my lifetime. I would love to see that.
I'm sure it will happen. And I bet hearing those messages and meeting those girls that are saying that continues to motivate you in this way.
Totally. And I would love to, I will continue to be involved like with the organization and help out and coach whenever I can. And yeah, it's really, really cool to see.
I can't wait to see what you do next.
Oh,
I mean, you're going to have to keep us updated
I will.
on everything and all you're doing. It's really incredible. And I just appreciate you so much reaching out to come on and talking with me and introducing me to all of this stuff. It's really incredible, and just keep it up. And please let me know how the podcast can support you in all you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Awesome to meet you as well. I was excited that, it's cool to see more women taking any type of role in baseball, whether that be like as a fan or working for a team. It's cool to see more people get involved.
This is really why I started this.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Being a woman who's a fan of baseball, when people would hear me talk baseball, it was such a shock to them that it almost annoyed me. That like, why is it such a big deal that I'm a huge baseball fan? Why is it like the coolest thing? Like, I love it, but like the fact that it was so shocking to people and they'd be so surprised really kind of pissed me off. So to hopefully bring more females into baseball and have conversations like this is why I started this. So thank you for all you're doing, and I will absolutely help in any way I can.
That's very sweet. Thank you.
And thanks for coming on today.
Of course. Thank you.
And we will talk to you next time, guys. Later.